Hello, everybody. This is Dan Arell from the Gamers Archive, and today we are talking about Day 2 of the League of Legends World Championship Group Stages. In yesterday's video, we talked about Day 1, and we talked about the predictions being made, some stats, this and that. And today, before we get into the actual games and predictions, let's talk about uh, just a few highlights in Day number 1. First off, Europe having a very rough start in another international tournament. Of course, we all remember G2 and MSI going 2-8. G2, H2K, and Splice all dropped their games, so Europe starting 0-3. Another thing we touched on was Albus Nox and INTZ. They came to play. At 10 minutes, Albus and INTZ had gold leads at 10 minutes over Rox and EDG. That's pretty impressive. Um, as far as Rox kind of made a quote comeback after 10 minutes and really slayed Albus, but INTZ, we'll get to that. Actually, we're gonna get to that right now. INTZ first upset at the World Championship, taking a game off of EDG. So INTZ is 1-0 in their group. EDG is 0-1. Incredible. As if we saw Revolta going against his hero in Clear Love and just completely outplayed him across the map. Another thing talking is China's identity, because as we saw, EDG was the #1 team in the LPL, and they lost to an international wildcard team. And then we had Royal Never Give Up, the #2 team in China, completely, taking TSM and pushing them over the edge. So #1 team loses to a wild card, and the #2 team beats the #1 NA team. So I think that's kind of ridiculous. Before we get into this predictions, yesterday's predictions might have not have gone too well. So as we're looking 3-3, 50%, not bad. Could have been worse. But we're gonna go ahead and get into today's predictions as we start off tonight with SK Telecom T1 defending world champions versus North America's Cloud9. Um, this is going to be a very interesting series. I've been really looking forward to this ever since I saw the groups. Of course, SKT were not the #1 team, losing to the Rocks Tigers. I'm really looking forward to seeing Bang versus Sneaky. Of course, now that we have the standard lanes, Bang and Wolf versus Smoothie and Sneaky, I think it's going to be a very interesting bot lane. I really cannot wait to see that top lane match, though. Really want to see how Impact goes against Duke. Of course, Impact was the Season 3 top laner for SK Telecom during their championship run. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Faker versus Jensen, yeah, I think it's kind of leaning a bit towards Faker. Although, as we've noticed, Faker was not the Faker of past. Back when they played Summer LPL, or Summer LCK, and Jensen was kind of on the upswing this split. However, it's an international tournament, and SKT always seems to show up in the international tournaments. So I will give this game over to SKT. And following that game will be the Flash Wolves out of the LMS and IMA, the third team out of the LPL. Two teams I really don't know too much about. So I'm just going to briefly touch on it. I am going to give this game to IMA because if we remember in the LPL, IMA lost in the semis to Royal Never Give Up, and that was a 3-2 series. That was very close. As we remember in the game, Amazing J and Athena. Personally, I mean, stat line might not have been the greatest, but I still think they played pretty well. They will be going against MMD and Maple, respectively. So I want to see how Amazing J can do against MMD. I do think Amazing J is a better player. And then in the mid lane, we have Athena versus Maple. That's going to be very close. I am going to give Athena the little bit of an edge in that. And of course, we got NL and Sword Art in that bot lane for Flash Wolves. I do think Road is going to be able, to kind of swing the momentum back in their favor, at least in that aspect. So I am going to give this one to IMA. I think it's going to be a very close game, though. And following that would be Team Solo Mid versus Samsung Galaxy, as we saw Samsung Galaxy coming off the win off Splice and TSM losing to RNG. As we saw TSM's micro game yesterday, played very, very well. I was very impressed by Sven Skarin, how he played uh, against MLXG. I didn't think that he was going to really actually out jungle him early on, so I was very impressed. It was just kind of the macro game that they really fell apart on, which with Samsung Galaxy, when they played Splice, it was like a very drawn out game, and it was kind of just like couple team fights won the game for him. I am actually going to give this game to TSM because, as we remember, Samsung had a pretty decent micro game. Same with TSM, but however, Samsung Galaxy is not RNG. I do see TSM bouncing back in this one. I don't think it's going to be a smash by any means of the words, but I do think that TSM will take it. And then following that is RNG versus Splice. As we saw, RNG, like I said, against TSM, they didn't have the greatest early game. They really turned it on, though, mid to late game, where Splice, against did not have the greatest early game against Samsung, but ended up, kind of bringing it back, but then just to lose it in a couple team fights. That having that weakness, at least in that game, is what RNG will use to get the win in this. RNG, a very good 5v5 team fight team, as you've known and as you heard. Uzi played incredible yesterday on that server, completely shut down double lift. I don't see Kabi and Mickey X doing really anything against Uzi. Also, you got to look. You have Mata, World Championship MVP. Mata's Alistair yesterday was spectacular. I will think that there will be a ban on Alistair. So, but we'll probably see something like Braum come out for him, something with a really heavy engage. But I will give RNG and a pretty handily win. And following that would be H2K and INTZ. Surprisingly, INTZ is the 1-0 team in this 1-0-1 matchup. As we saw yesterday, Revolta just completely out jungling Clear Love. From a team aspect, it was incredible. I honestly thought it was going to be INTZ, leading for a while, and then it's going to be EDG coming in and just cleaning house. No, that really wasn't the case. In that last team fight, I literally was jumping up out of my seat. I was that stoked from it. But anyway, I don't think Lightning will strike twice. I think H2K will kind of come back from this. Forgiven played an okay game yesterday. Yankos played decent. As far as the H2K game against HQ, it was really what kind of threw that game was the Baron fight. Ryu on Cass was just kind of caught out, and they just sort of piled in where Samsung was able to take the. I'm sorry, where AHQ was just able to take the fight and it completely snowballed the game. So it was just one misstep. I think INTZ will be kind of coming in obviously a little confident, taking over EDG, and for good reason. I mean, why shouldn't they be confident, But I think H2K will bounce back. Both teams will finish 1-1 on day 2. And the closing game will be EDG versus AHQ. Shockingly, when you look at this matchup, you would think EDG is the 1-0 team, AHQ would be the 0-1. Well, not the case. Of course, EDG coming off the loss to the international wildcard, Brazilian INTZ, and AHQ coming off a very good win against H2K, a very slow, drawn-out game. I am going to give EDG the win here because I still believe I'm not sold on AHQ. Obviously, a little bit of trouble with West Doors. They were talking about the synergy with the teams fully, it's just kind of not fully there. Of course, with a loss to an international wildcard being the top team in China, you would think they're kind of rattled a bit. I don't think they are. I think they're going to come out and play very well. I really hope that they sub out Mouse on EDG side, or at least put him on a champion that can afford, to kind of fall behind. Because of course we saw with Aurelia, literally abandoned and just got absolutely destroyed by Yang. So I really don't. I don't see EDG going 0-2. I think that their problems are a lot less of an actual problem than AHQ. I think AHQ's kind of comes down from like a core aspect. Westor is a very good mid laner. I just am not fully sold on that team. I think if On has a great game, then AHQ absolutely could take out EDG, but I don't think the EDG is going to drop too. Wondering if Scout's going to play. I kind of hope he does because Pawn looked a little bit lost at times. I mean, like Pawn's very good. Obviously, if you watch the Season 4 World Championship, World Champion mid laner, he played very well leading the entire tournament. I just think Scout fits this team comp, or not this team comp, fits this team style, and of course the 618 meta. I do think that Scout fits in better, but even if they have Pawn in or if they have Scout in, I do think it is going to be EDG taking it 2-0. I'm sorry, no. I'm sorry. See, once again, I keep thinking that they automatically beat INTZ. They're going to be 1-1, and HQ will be 1-1 at the end of the day. But that is all for this video. Tomorrow, we'll be doing kind of what we're doing at the beginning of this video. We'll talk about day 2s and make the predictions for day 3. So we will see you in the next video.